Welcome back. I'm Joe DiDonato, one of the co-founders of the Orphan Foundation. I'm hosting this week's show while our lovely co-host, TJ Myers, is off filming her new movie in Louisiana. Also with me is Robin Martino, the president of the Orphan Foundation. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Joe.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with our foundation, we help children get into loving families by removing some of the barriers to adoption. If you want to learn more about our programs, you can visit our website at www.theorphanfoundation.org. Today we have some very special guests with us. Donna and Rolf Rennemo are here with their two lovely daughters, and we're going to be talking all about their adoption adventures in China. Donna is also one of our board members for the Orphan Foundation, so we're also going to chat about that this morning. Donna, Rolf, why don't you introduce your lovely daughters to us?
Okay. First to my right, we have Lauren Mena, and she is 8 years old. And we have Catherine Shaoli, who is 5 years old. And Shaoli has just started kindergarten this year, and Lauren is in 3rd grade.
Wow, those are lovely pearls. Where did they come from?
They both got their pearls from China. And actually, Lauren's were given to her by a very, very special man in China who helped with the adoptions, Mr. Tien. And when all of us came over from Norway, we adopted them via an agency in Norway. Mr. Tien was one of the gentlemen that were helping the families with the adoptions. And so he was so gracious to so many of the families. Wow. And he had a gift for Lauren from China. And then we bought Shaoli's pearls from China as well.
Oh, that's terrific. Now you guys are truly a universal international family. You want to tell us your backgrounds? Mm-hmm. Donna, what's yours?
Thank you. So I'm an American with Italian heritage, and I grew up in Southern California. And Rolf is a Norwegian. He grew up in Oslo, and we actually met each other in Oslo in a business meeting several years ago. And Lauren is from Guilin, beautiful Guilin, China, which is just northwest of Hong Kong. And then Shaoli is from beautiful Kunming, China, which is in the Yunnan province.
Wow, wow. And you, why don't you tell them how you got involved with our board? You saw someplace or something, and go ahead, tell the story.
Yes. So, first of all, if I may just say, we've been living in Norway. That's where we adopted the children from China, but we were living in Norway for the first years of their lives. And we moved back to Southern California just 2 years ago. And for me, I really wanted a chance to join and contribute to what I find a very important cause, and that is to help orphan children find homes. And we actually were going to an ice cream shop in the Thousand Oaks area, and we came upon the little box there for donations. The Orphan Foundation was there.
You put $100 in there, I hope.
Didn't put $100 in there, but felt really just a good feeling about wanting to contribute more as much as I can. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, Lauren, did you? Is it warmer here than in Norway, or is it the other way around?
It's really warmer here.
A lot warmer here. It's too bad, Dad.
That's not so good skiing. So.
No.
Not so good skiing. Yeah, you have to drive a little ways here, but not far. A couple hours, and you're in the mountains someplace. Now, how old were the girls when you adopted?
They were each 10 months when we adopted them.
Oh my goodness, just little tiny babies, and was that a long process? Tell us about the process. You know, we hear horror stories here in the United States on people who are in the process for years and years and years. What's your story on this?
We started this off in Norway, and in both cases we had about 2 years of process before we could go to China and finally collect the prize.
So it's no easier in another country.
No, and the agency is called Verdensbarn, which is Children of the World. And you know, the first part of the process was working with the social, what do they call it? But the social group that basically goes through all the evaluations of our finances and our backgrounds.
Kind of like our home study?
Yeah, something like this. And then once you get, and our readiness to have children. In fact, you know, Rolf and I, we were older when we started this process, and we really said if there were twins, we would very much be open to adopting twins, but we weren't approved for twins for some reason. Now we understand why. It's a little more difficult when you're a little older, I guess, to handle twins, but we weren't approved for twins. You know, we were saying especially for, you know, if it was a brother and sister, we didn't want to break them up. But we went through that process, and then after that, it was then starting the whole process with Verdensbarn, which was an enormous process because it was applications and everything had to be translated from Norwegian to Chinese, and then all the notarizations, and quite extensive. I understand the importance of that for making sure that children find good homes, but I would say for the second time around, it would be great if it wouldn't have to be as extensive, because, you know, especially if you have had a successful track record, why have to do it again? And we say that because there are so many children that really need loving homes, and we all know that it is best for everybody if these children can be put in these homes as early in their lives as possible.
Now, do you have to make 2 trips to China, or is it just one?
No, we made 2 different trips. So.
And what happens on the first trip versus the second one?
Actually, the process was pretty much the same, except different locations. You want to say a little bit?
It's one trip per adoption.
Right.
Right.
Per adoption.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because some of the
sorry.
countries I know, like Russia, they have one where the Department of Education kind of is responsible for the children, and you have to go interview with them, and then you get to meet the children, and then the second time is to get approval from the courts. But it doesn't work that way in China, correct?
No, each time we were there for approximately 2 weeks. So we did all the processing with agencies down there, and then got the child and had about a week for everything to follow up with Norwegian authorities down there and Chinese authorities.
So we were in 2 different locations, right? We went to Nanning for Lauren, and then to Beijing, and then it was the same for Charlie. We went to her province, and then ended up back in Beijing. But what a beautiful experience, and you know, an opportunity for us really to be present with these children. You know, you have 2 weeks and you're in their country and you're in their culture. So why we were waiting for all this paperwork and why we were going through all these steps with all these wonderful other people that we were adopting with, and you got to see all these beautiful children. We also got to go sightseeing. You know, we went to Chinese opera, we went to the Chinese Wall, we just saw just so many beautiful things. And too bad they were so young, but we have so many wonderful memories. And
I think, Robin, you gave me a book to read. It was called Lily, the story of, I forgot the formal name of it.
I can't remember it either.
The child's name was Lily, where a couple had gone over there, and they were talking about their experiences with the folks who were watching them go to the orphanages and so forth. And you know, when to talk and not to talk. Was it that bad, or is that too much fiction?
Well, I didn't have any sense of that, other than the interaction with the
Pretty
Chinese
welcome.
authorities. You know, keep it very businesslike and short.
yeah. But what I can say is the most gracious people, even if they had nothing. Do you remember we were out? We went out. It was in Charlie's province, right? In Yunnan. And there were some poor people walking oxes, and they saw all of us who had been adopting. And this man came up and he actually gave us some money. I mean, he had nothing. And, you know, he was so gracious that we were taking these children and you know, providing a home and a life for them. So that's what I could say about the Chinese and our experience there. It was just, everything was beautiful, very formal, of course, you know, very formal with all the processes, but very beautiful. And then just to close on this question about the process, we also had to do what they call post-placement reports. So 2 in 6-month intervals that answered. We had to answer the questions, how are they doing? How are their motor skills? How have they adapted to the culture? Were they legalized in Norway? Did they get,
Were those questions from the authorities in China or from your social group?
They were from the authorities in China.
Okay.
So we had to send all of the answers along with pictures, and it's wonderful now to look back on those reports and the pictures we sent
Sure.
and all of that. Yeah.
One more comment to the process, the 2 years process. The hardest part of it was the periods where you didn't do anything, where you didn't have any forms to fill out, and you were just waiting for the next milestone to hit in. And the final one was after everything was approved, and we got a picture with first time with Lauren on it, and we had 6 months before we actually could go there and pick her up.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
having her picture and knowing that she was there,
Yeah.
that
Waiting
was
for
the
you
toughest.
guys.
And
Yeah.
those are important months in their lives. When we got her
Right.
picture, she was only a month old. And so, by the time we arrived on the scene and everything had been completed, she was 10 months old. So while we understand all the processes that have to go through, for them it's so much nicer if we could shorten that up a bit.
Yeah.
So
Now, just because I know everybody in our listening audience would want to ask the questions, why so many girls in China? What's the climate? What's the social situation that causes that? Can you care to comment on that?
Well, yeah, please go.
Oh, yeah. So, well, at the time that we went through the adoptions, because obviously times are changing very rapidly in China, and we actually noticed that between the first adoption and the second, how much development had gone on in Beijing and the other provinces. But from what we understand, because of the lack of wealth in so many of the areas, families are allowed one child, and a lot of these families prefer to have a boy because of their customs, and that the boy, would stay and help the families with the farms and with plowing and everything that they needed. And you think about China, it's got 1.3 billion people. So now if you think about today, you have a very rapidly growing middle class, if you will, the size of our country, right? 300 million people that are starting to do well, but you still have 1 billion people that are still in dire poverty. So I guess that's a way to answer it. But then to say that the latest news or information we find today is that there aren't enough girls to go around, and so they are changing that policy.
Okay, well, we're going to take a little break right now, and we're going to come back, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the orphanages and the conditions there. So if you'd like to go to our website, again, it's www.theorphanfoundation.org, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, before the break, we were talking about the number of girls that are in China. I believe there's 4 million girls waiting to be adopted, so it's quite a large population. And Rolf, during the break, you were indicating some other issues that have to do with land and so forth. Maybe you could explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, a lot of people in China has been living in rural areas doing farming, and they get the land allocated from the government. And they can work that up to a certain age, and after that, that will go back to either the government, or a son can take it over. So to secure for their old age, they prefer to have a son, so that they have a place to live in their old age and be taken care of.
Okay.
Whereas a girl often would marry and go elsewhere to live.
Okay, so it's the land can only be handed down to a male child.
Right.
And then they keep that land, and the child can work until he gets of age, and then to secure his retirement, I guess he has to have a son.
Yeah.
And the continuous process. That's interesting.
And also in combination with that, you had the one-child policy in China. So that's why instead of keeping more, they had to adopt, their daughters away. So it's kind of sad that way. They do have an option today to pay more taxes and have more children, but it's only the people who who can afford that, of course, that can do that.
Yeah, they keep tightening up on their laws. I think the last thing we saw, you have to be of a certain weight and within a certain age. I think I fail on all those parts, so I won't be adopting from there soon. But it's interesting how they view it. Were you able to go to the orphanages there?
We were not, no.
You were not.
So we were not allowed to see the orphanages. The only peeks into the worlds that we had before we received or adopted them was pictures that we received from their caregivers early on. So there we saw Shaoli in a little crib, and we saw Lauren with some of her caregivers, who all, I must say, from the pictures and from what we understand, cared a great deal about them, and we're so thankful for that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was another part of the book that we can't remember the title of. Something about Finding Lily, I think.
Forever Lily.
Forever Lily, that's what it was, yeah. They were. I think that was in the times where they were allowed to visit the orphanages, and they were quite overcrowded before the government came in and helped with that problem. So what the people saw was kind of sad. You know, the kids were in little crate boxes with, you know, some straw in it, but I think things are probably a lot better at this point.
Yeah, I hope so. We for Lauren, we traveled with a group of Norwegians. How many were there of us? About
like
20 couples or so?
Yeah.
15, 20 couples. And so we were in a beautiful hotel in Beijing, and the day after this enormous journey, we received these lovely children, and each of them were brought to our individual hotel room. And so Lauren actually had traveled almost 600 miles that day. Very hot day, and the care on a train, and they had everything that she had owned on her. They had several pairs of pants and everything, and they brought her to us in our hotel room. And Mommy and Daddy looked a bit different than the people she was used to seeing, so I think she was very uneasy and skeptic about us.
Nervous.
She was nervous.
We're that way around your mom, too. That's okay.
But, you know, I think there's just, for all children in the world, once you bring balloons or food, then
universal.
they forget about everything, you know. So, and with
that's nice.
Shaoli was part of an orphanage where there were a lot of babies, and unfortunately not that many caregivers. And we were all in, the second time around, we were in a government building of some sort, and all of the parents were sitting waiting for the babies, and that's when they brought all the babies in. So you can imagine how all of us felt, because we were all looking for the picture to match the baby, which one is ours, you know.
Yeah.
And they sat Shaoli down on Rolf's lap, and we gave her a cracker, and that's where it ended. She just sat there with that cracker, and everything was fine. A cracker and a little toy, and
now we've progressed to ice cream cones after the show, huh?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
I see.
Absolutely.
So the way the process works now, let's make sure we make it clear for everybody. The longest part of the time was the kind of the home study, the background checks. I think everybody doesn't understand what the home study means, but it's really a study of you and your home. And
Literally.
your finances, your medical history, your family,
Everything.
you know, how the family feels about you adopting, and you have to pass all that.
Yeah, you have
And,
to pass all that.
and that's what takes the length of time that it does. And the stats we have is that half the people usually drop out during that period of time. So before we give grants to families, we kind of make sure they're through that process, and usually after that they're pretty committed. But after that it runs pretty quick, is that, or no?
No, not really. I mean, we had the period then where we did all the translations
Oh yeah, getting it
and
into their-
notarizations of everything, and then finally got that rubber stamped and sent off to China. And then it was a new waiting while the government in China processed all of this.
And that was a really difficult part, because then you're all done and you're just in waiting mode, waiting for this child, waiting to hear, and the agency was wonderful there. I mean, they tolerated all our phone calls, you know, once a week. Any new news? Any new news?
And there was also very good contacts that kept you updated about how the people that have applied before, how long time it took before they got the allocations, and so that helped.
And what about in your home country? Is there a large orphan population there, or we never hear about Norway?
No, there's the local adoptions within Norway, and then international adoptions from all over, from everything from Russia, of course, and to over to Asia.
What were your reasons for international versus domestic Norway at that point?
Well, firstly, the availability of children that needed to be adopted in Norway. There weren't that many that were in need. Number one, Shelley, please. There weren't that many that were in need, and then secondly, you know, for us, Rolf and I were open to adopting children in need. We didn't care where they were from, right? And actually, how China came to pass was that it was one of the only countries that accepted us because of our age, because of our religion, because of our status, marital status. I mean, we were married, but you know, we had been married in the past. We had a marriage before this one. So, in all of these rules and laws, which again, if I may say, they should lighten up on, because in the United States they have, because you see all sorts of people that are able to adopt children, wonderful people, whether they fit the perfect mold or not. They're loving people, and that's what really matters.
And of course, you know, that's some of the barriers that we are trying to break down. You know, we keep looking at, you know, the children and the kind of care and upbringing they get in an orphanage, in an institution, versus having all these laws. I mean, the laws are to protect the children, of course, make sure they get into safe environments, but with all those laws comes a great deal of cost, as you know, the translation of the documents. So you go through the home study, then you have to get the documents translated, you have to get visas and
shots
and
shots. Lots of vaccinations.
For you and the kids?
Well, for Rolf and I before we went. And
us
then
before.
Sorry. And then the poor babies coming back, they had to go through a lot.
Yeah, they didn't have a trust of the medical files from China. So when it says that they had these and these shots, the Norwegian authorities at least said that, well, we don't know if these shots have been expired when given, or if they create the record. So they did them all again.
Oh my goodness! You would think that might produce some risk. No, that's well, they're obviously not. Now, we promised to show the young ladies' pictures here on national television. So, Shaoli, what do you think?
Shaoli?
I'm
going to show you a picture.
What do you think here? Maybe we'll go like from here, huh? Can you?
You want to tell what is on the picture?
What are those?
You don't want to say anything?
Gigantic lions? Are those what is it? Bengal lions, or just your kittens at home? Your kittens at home. Good guess. Sure.
They're wishful kittens. So I'm allergic.
Rolf is deathly allergic to kittens, so they're not our chickens.
Maybe if Dad looks at the pictures long enough, he won't be allergic anymore.
I wanted to, I don't know how much time we have, but just to share that.
We have a few more minutes. We have about 3.
So just a couple things. One is what I think is so special is both these girls are Norwegian-speaking Chinese, and also they know a little bit of Italian, so they are truly international kids and walk easily into 3 worlds, really, to Norway, to California, to Italy, and just blend easily into those worlds. And then just want to make a comment about, you know, going through an international adoption, how important it is to do the research on the country that you're going to adopt children from, and be prepared with the medicines and the clothes and the toys for the children, but obviously to donate gifts, to the orphanages, because they're greatly appreciated. And just to be sensitive to the fact that these children are coming from and are used to a very different culture. They're used to different sounds, climate, food, way of being handled. And it's important to understand these differences, so when you adopt these children, you'll understand their reaction to you, especially the ones that can't talk, you know, when they're so young. So.
How did you prepare for that?
How did we prepare?
Did the social workers help you?
They did.
Or was that...
the social workers helped us. We did our own research on China, and then we were so lucky. The first adoption with Lauren, we had a woman, what is Kadi? Kadi, who has had years and years of helping peoples adopt from China. And actually, her father was a missionary, so they have built.
She did actually the first international adoption from China.
Yeah.
So she knew the Chinese authorities, and the whole process was very smooth there for us.
And she was so helpful, so
That's
knowledgeable. And
Well, just maybe one or two
wonderful.
final questions. What can people expect it will cost to adopt internationally these days? What would you guess? Would the travel maybe $25,000 to more, less per child?
Well, we were doing it based out of Norway, so it might
Yeah.
vary slightly from here, but I think around 25 was the cost we had. Maybe slightly more the second time because we had one more ticket. Lauren had to come and get her
that's
sister,
true.
you know.
Exactly.
so,
Okay, well, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with all of our listeners. All of this helps folks who are looking to get into the adoption arena. So that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you to our guests and to Robin. For more information on our foundation and how you can get grants, just go to www.theorphanfoundation.org, and we'll see you next time.